So I've heard Aaron Taylor Johnson might just be the next Bond, which I am all for. I did like the fan cast of Idris Elba, but even more than a few years ago when his name was being tossed around, he was a little old. So Aaron Taylor Johnson, you have my 2 thumbs up. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Today, I want to discuss the setting of the next Bond movie, because it should not be in the modern day. I think it should be a period piece. Welcome to Sandwich Reviews. I'm the Talking Sentient Sandwich, and I sometimes love Bond. You might not be aware of it, but one family, the Broccoli's, yes, that's their real name, entirely owns the franchise. Every decision behind every movie is controlled by them. And not just that, starting in 1999 with The World Is Not Enough, 2 screenwriters, Robert Wade and Neil Purvis, have written all of the Bond movies, from Die Another Day to Casino Royale. While I wish that weren't the case, I'm not too mad about it. So rather than make a 5.5-hour video essay about why they shouldn't have control, I'll make a quick 5.5-minute video about what they should do with their next movie. The original books by Ian Fleming were written in the 1950s, the first of which, Casino Royale, came in 1953. However, as much as that series shaped the film franchise, people know Bond from the movies, specifically from the Sean Connery-led ones. And when were those movies made? Connery might have starred in multiple Bond movies after the swingin' 60s, but the ones he's remembered for are isolated to that decade. Unless you're talking about being remembered for your pettiness, where you make your own Bond movie because of some rights dispute about Fleming's most current novel, in which case Connery would be remembered for Thunderball. Yet despite being behind easily the wildest adaptation of Thunderball, he will always be Bond to me. The way he would waltz into a room with a drink in his hand and an eyebrow cocked, he would just ooze charisma. Or at least that was the interpretation coming from a very young and impressionable me. But isn't that the exact effect James Bond should have? Since then, the franchise has gone through ups and downs. In my humble opinion, more downs than ups. But that doesn't take away from the really good moments. GoldenEye, the most recent Casino Royale, and No Time to Die are genuinely great and are must-watches if you're someone who claims to be a fan of spy movies or Bond. The other recent installments have some good parts, especially Skyfall, but they're not really worth your time. But Bond has always been a reactive franchise. The Bourne Identity came out, so Daniel Craig's version was made to be like that. The Dark Knight featured a mastermind villain who intentionally got caught, and Skyfall did the exact same thing. I'd like to think that Spectre didn't borrow from Austin Powers, but the crazy twist that Bond and Blofeld were adoptive brothers might have been just as ridiculously hilarious as it was when Mike Myers did it. Craig's Casino Royale storyline wasn't new, and the entire movie was made to replicate the success of the Bourne Identity, yet that movie still rocks. I'm not sure why I'm bringing this up. It kind of contradicts my point, but it's just an undeniable fact. But I think the point still stands that Bond has always chased after trends and cliches, even before Daniel Craig. I don't even think that's necessarily a bad thing, though. Every franchise features current trends and tries to cater to new niches. And the Broccoli's have been smart enough to hire really good directors and filmmakers to make these movies. Yet, the way I see it, they have 3 options. They can keep making saccharine and self-serious thrillers, lean into a more Kingsman-like universe that is hyper-real and self-aware, or they can take it back to basics. The Bond franchise has always had a hard time balancing high-tech gadgets and gritty realism, but I think that's all predicated on an idea that the filmmakers got wrong. Because the next Bond movie shouldn't be set in the modern day, trying to adhere to modern technology and sensibilities. It should be set in the 60s. Bond has always been a problematic character, but it kind of fits better in that timeline. A movie like that would work because no one would be concerned about realism. Sure, make the production look accurate to the times, but have fun with it. A hyper-real world is exactly what you should be looking for when going into a spy movie. Gritty versions do work, especially spy thrillers, and a Bond movie should definitely have some of that, but I would like to see some popping colors for a change. The best thing about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is the setting. What, you haven't heard of that movie? It's okay, no one has. But it's a pretty fun Guy Ritchie movie based on an old spy show from the 60s. It's certainly not perfect, but every bit of that entertainment from the movie comes from the fun that it draws from the time period. So please, Purvis, Wade, broccolis? Whoever's listening, set the next Bond movie in the 60s. If you already have a script finished, you wouldn't even need to change it that much. Though I would prefer as many references and nods to the time as you can put in. Like any movie, it needs to get serious and dark, but why not have some fun while you're at it? As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe for weekly videos, and enjoy a delicious sandwich.